if everybody could stand, we're gonna kind of, our nation's colors in place, hand salute, 2. Sit down, please. So, we're here for Sergeant at Arms, but we're gonna kind of do everything that touches the Sergeant at Arms class, or your duties, and we'll try to make it interesting. Almost all the information came from our books, especially this little manual here, right? That's what they put out, the department puts out, and that's what we follow as Sergeant at Arms. Now, this is an old one, because I got this a few conferences ago. There is a newer one that you can download from the department webpage, right? And it's pretty much the same info, but you can have it electronically, and it covers everything that I'm going to talk about today. All right? The other one that's important is the officer's guide, which tells you how to do it in a post setting. The ceremonies, it covers pretty much everything from what the flags are, what all the emblems mean, everything. So it covers a lot of stuff. And then we'll go through the flag code, and there it is, the Sergeant at Arms protocol manual. All right. So what do we do? What are we supposed to do? All right. We're supposed to preserve order at all meetings or gatherings. We're supposed to help your director, and in some cases, most of us are posts, so we can help the commander if we're the post sergeant at arms. So it kind of goes hand in hand there. We assist the road captain in enforcing all the rules when there's a riot. We try to help keep that order there too. So, we ensure that when you're attending the meetings, all the folks that are in the meeting are in good standing. That's one of the, especially at this time of year, right? We're doing from January to February. Some people have forgot to do their dues. Officially, they're not supposed to be in the meeting, because after February 1st, they're not in good standing anymore. B, responsible for staging of all the flags. Like when you have a meeting, you make sure you set the flags up according to the protocol book, right? American flag, if you're looking at it's on the left, and the Legion flag, the auxiliary, all the other flags are to the right. So, what is preserve the hall? Preserve the order of the meetings. We secure the hall before the meeting. We'll do the POWMIA ceremony. We'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. And during the meeting, we're supposed to help keep it quiet and orderly. In some of the ceremonies, you may be asked to participate, especially if it's a small ceremony. You may be the flag bearer or host the flag, colors, right? So those ceremonies some of them are in here, but they're also in the officer's guide. And they will tell you what exactly each one of those ceremonies, how it's supposed to go. Now, each post has their own traditions and everything, so you follow what the commander or the director does. when your director is at the podium, you're on duty. All right? And when you're on duty, you should have a cap. All right? And you should have it on at all times except for the prayer. That's how we function as a sergeant at arms. All right? From the beginning to the end, except for the prayer. All right? And, sorry, I'll go back. Prayer, then we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have you guys in the audience, or the audience, POW, then the director says cover, right? But as the sergeant at arms, the only time we take our hat off is at prayer. You are wearing your cap at all times unless for prayer. So, what do we mean by assist the road captain? We don't want to do this job. All right, that's a tougher job than what we have. We help with the pre-ride briefings. We help with covering the route. Some of the sergeant at arms are either tail gunner or whatever. I mean, they help. Some of them are road captains too. So we kind of do the hazards, and then the hand signals. That's the big question mark. And then I think maybe future conferences will get into, you see Ted passing around, the MSP stuff. We have the safety program, right? Some people say no hand signals, some people say hand signals. So it depends on what your group, what your chapter does. Some chapters, no hand signals at all. So it depends on where you're at, but we're gonna, as far as what the safety program says, I'm not gonna take the thunder of Ted whenever they do get that. And then I think that's gonna be, they're gonna cover some of that in, I think he has, I don't know, do you know if he has? The MSP this week?
Yeah, the safety class this afternoon.
Okay. All right. All right. As I said earlier, we need to make sure that when people come into meetings, that's our gathering, right? So they are current in their dues, they're good standing. And you need to identify guests. You should know all the members, so you should be able to pick out the guests. Now, it doesn't make any difference if you were here yesterday when Jim, asked for everybody to stand up, right? From Jessica to Gambler, right? I mean, everybody was, and that's how you get, you're supposed to have a list of guests so you can give to the director so he doesn't mess up names. And then help him in the order of how he or she is supposed to announce it. In the officer's guide, it does say the order of how you're supposed to announce guests. So you kind of look at that and then hopefully help the director if he or she does not know. And then during the meeting, you escort the guests to and from the podium. All right? This is where some people, we get kind of mixed up. So when you're coming to the podium and that guest is going to speak, all right, you should know if they're a veteran, legionnaire, sons, whatever, or they're just a just a regular
non-affiliate.
Non-veteran, I guess, right? So when you're coming up to the podium, you hand salute the flag, and then you escort the legionnaires and the sons and veterans to the left. All right? it's an auxiliary and a non-veteran, you escort them to the right. So there's two ways on approaching inside the flag. Right? Everybody get that? I mean, sometimes the auxiliary person, if you're escorting, sometimes the way it should happen is with that, if it's a president of the auxiliary, he or she should have their sergeant at arms with them. Sometimes it's not, so you kind of take over that duties. All right? So it depends on what's going on. I'm District 6, so some of the times in our District 6 meetings, the auxiliary sometimes doesn't have her sergeant at arms, so I sit in and take care of the duties while she's at the podium. So everything's similar. The Sons is similar. We, the Riders, and the Legion, I mean, pretty much we do all the same protocols. So, we had a discussion yesterday about flags. Let's just say on motorcycles, right? We're talking about the smaller flags now that go on our saddlebags or whatever. You always try to put the American flag to the right, all right? And somebody asked me in my meeting, in the class yesterday was, why is it always to the right?
I don't.
Thank God Les was here because I didn't know the reason why, right? Well, on the two-wheelers, when you're putting your kickstands down, the American flag is supposed to be the tallest. So if you have it on the right, it's always the tallest. Right? It also should not be smaller than any other flag you have on your bike. So it either has to be equal or bigger while and a lot of us have at least two flags, some of us do, have two flags on our bikes. The other thing that was approached was when we are doing in a parade, because sometimes we always put the American flag in the middle. Let's say if we have a stand with three flags. It has to go on the right-hand side. It should go on the right-hand side. All right? And the American flag should never lead. It has to be straight up and down. All right? So there's a lot of things in the Legion book, especially in the officer's guide. It actually covers about 4 or 5 pages of the history of the flags, all that stuff. So it covers a lot. And then we have the U.S. flag code that actually helps us with how the flags are supposed to, how we're supposed to treat it, all right? What size flag do you put on your flagpole? All right, there are certain heights. If you have a 20-foot flag, you're not supposed to put a 10 by 30 flag, whatever the size is, right? It's a 4 by 6 or a 3 by 5, because the heights, that's what the U.S. flag code tells us, right? Most homes, if we have a flag, we have a 3 by 5. Mainly because here in Florida, you have to replace them at least every 3 months or so because the weather just tears it apart. So, how many of you guys have a flag box at your post?
Or a barrel.
Or a barrel or whatever, right? So that's the other thing. We in Kissimmee, the city brings all the flags, right? And we had two of the fire units. They brought their big 30 by 40 flag, 2 of them. And one of them was like brand new. It was like, me and the commander are looking at each other, it's like, I think we ought to keep this one. We're not gonna put that, well, it didn't fit in our flag box. So, we have an Eagle Scout that is responsible to dispose of all our flags. That was one of his projects about 4 years ago. And because he's an Eagle Scout, he's supposed to continue, no matter what, he's supposed to continue doing that project. Unless he hands it over to another Eagle Scout. So that's how we get our flags disposed. Some of you guys, you have ceremonies. So, I mean, there is a ceremony to dispose of the flag. So, there are certain ways. Any questions on the flag? Probably one of the most important things we do is the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think any other organization, the veterans organization, we stand by this, right? What is the meaning of what is the meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance? We are promising to be true to the United States of America. That's its simple terms. And we say that every meeting. When we're on a ride, most of the time we say prayer and then we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Right? In some of the meetings, people ask, well, why don't we say, and Jessica covered it in her meeting, is why don't we say the preamble, right? Well, because we're a family. And all the other two parts, the other three, Legion, Sons, and Auxiliary have their own preamble. So if we say the Legion preamble, then, so that's why we don't say the preamble in our meeting. So the way we do it, we always put our heart, remember, covers off, and we put our hand over our heart. The veterans, if they're outside our circle, all right, they're allowed to salute during it. But for us, we put our hand over our heart. Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's a point of contention on that too.
Yes.
People that salute do not say the pledge because
Correct.
You're at attention and you don't talk when you're saluting.
You're at it, yeah.
Okay, that people think, okay, because I'm a veteran, I can salute and say the pledge. You can salute, but you can't say the pledge. You just stand there quietly at attention.
Yep.
That's in section 4 of the flag code. However, the next section talks about saluting during the Star-Spangled Banner. And it says that you may sing while you're saluting, which is kind of weird because you don't really supposed to make any noise at attention. But they also say that singing while you're saluting could be, I think they say, cumbersome, and therefore they recommend uncovering and putting your hand over your heart to sing the Star-Spangled Banner.
It's crazy.
Right? It's because nobody wanted to actually make a rule. They're like, well, you could do this, but you could do that too.
Thank you. All right, POW-MIA, empty chair. That's one of the other functions that we do. All right? And on the opening meeting, we approach the podium, we salute the American flag, and then we go to the chair, we put the cover on, and then we a slow hand salute. All right? And then you come back and you salute as out the flag. After the meeting is concluded, we in the Department of Florida have, I think in a couple of years now, we've been doing it at Post 10. At the closing ceremony, right, you do the same thing. You approach the chair. But everybody, if you are a Legionnaire or a son having your cover on, all right, you salute. All auxiliary and non-veterans, they all do this as the sergeant at arms is slowly hand salute, right? And then you take the check, and then you finish your business. Yes.
Can you go back over so when you do the approach to the chair, you
Yes.
salute the colors,
Yeah.
and then you do your slow salute for the
After you
the
put it-
drape, and then do you salute the colors again
Yes.
before you do your facing move?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. Yes.
You said salute the flag and stuff, but if you're a non-veteran, should you just put your hand over your heart?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Never thought about, yeah, that, yeah, you may be a non.
Because that's what I do, and
Yeah.
just out of
Yeah,
respect.
that's it. That's how you do it, so. I'm so used to, that. If you go to out of state, you have to be, don't try to correct anybody because they may not do everybody the salute, all right? So just, you have to be careful, but that is how we do it in Florida. All right, one of the ones, and I don't know, how many were y'all sitting in the front of the room? I think you were, Joe. Yesterday during the ceremony, I was in the back, I was closing this door, and all of a sudden I heard, whoa, 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 right? Well, Melanie had reached across the two flags and had a microphone or something, and it was like, so the hollow ground is between our flags. Right? You're not supposed to reach across or do anything, even walk through. Right? So when you're setting up your meeting room, be cognizant of that and think about, because you may have something that's going on. I've seen some posts, they put their flags behind the table. All right? So that way they don't have to worry about hollow ground. Some put it at the edge of the tables where you have to be careful where you can't reach across. So the hollow ground is, you never you never reach across it, and you always saluting the American flag when you come into the room. Everybody is supposed to salute, and when you leave the room, you're supposed to salute. Or if you're an auxiliary, you do, or, non-member, right? The American flag should never touch the ground or the floor, right? We have to kind of be careful with that, all right? The flag is sometimes very difficult, especially the bigger ones. It may touch the ground. But you don't want the flag to be damaged or, dirtied or salt, anything, right? So you want to always have a clean flag and a very nice flag. So we in the book and in the flag etiquette, it actually says, hey, there's some wording that you can, it's like you don't have to destroy the flag. Because it maybe touched this floor or something like that, right? But that's where the size of the flag matters. That sounds weird, but so if you have a 6-foot pole, flag pole, then you're not going to have a 4x6 flag, right? Then you may come into trouble. It's usually a 3x5 flag, right? And you have to watch the sizes depending on what your flagpoles are, right? And they're in the book. So the U.S. Code says what sizes and what size of the flagpoles are. Any questions on hollow ground and the flag?
I got a question on the hollow ground.
Yes.
I'm not totally understanding you. Are you saying in front of the flag, or obviously you're not
In
going to reach
between.
between them, But
Yes.
what about in the front and the back? Is there a buffer zone there?
No,
too?
there's not. It's only between the two flags,
Okay,
right? That's,
that's the hollow
that
ground.
is a hollow ground.
Okay.
And yes,
I have a question regarding that. To me, it sounds like it would make sense to put the flags in the back, because if they're in the front, you know, if you have a guest speaker, you're walking on that hollow ground.
no, well.
You're walking around.
Walk
You
around.
walk
Around it.
Hollow ground, okay.
Yeah, so, and that's why sometimes, it depends on where your meetings are, all right? Some meeting rooms, you can't, you only have so much room to fit the people in, so you have to be careful on where you place the flag. And you talk to your commander or director and say, hey, where would you like to have the flags? What we found, like yesterday, and we put the flags too close, most of you guys from back here, you couldn't see it. You know, even though we don't really want to look at Jim too much, but, you know. Don't tell him I said that. But,
Oh, we're telling them.
that was my first thing. Everybody came back after the meeting and they said, hey, can you split the flags? And I was like, well, for tomorrow afternoon, we'll split the flags. So, but yeah, you have to be knowledgeable of where you're at in the room, because you may put it somewhere where you don't want anybody to cross, but you may be blocking somebody's view. So that's where you have to look at. All right, when we're on duty, all right, prior to the start of the meeting, we're supposed to announce that, hey, the meeting's gonna start. Ask the membership to silence their phones. Usually it's a $5 fine, right? Or whatever, sometimes. Depends on what meeting you're in.
And depends on whose phone goes off.
Exactly, right?
If it's Gambler's phone, that's $25.
We secure the hall by closing the doors, and then we let the director know that the hall has been secured. We'll do the POW ceremony, we will lead the pledge, and then we'll announce an escort guest. All right? When we're in the meeting, our job is to be talking to the director and watching that door, all right? One of the things that's happened in my case, even in district, because I'm the sergeant in arms for district, also District 6, that people tend to come in at the last minute of your meetings, right? Right? You're not supposed to let anybody in once the meeting starts until opening ceremonies are done. All right? That is the rule. And people get upset when you say, no, you can't come in, right? And some of them leave. It was like, well, I'm sorry, show up 2 minutes earlier and you would have been in, right?
Exactly.
So, but you don't want to disrupt that respect that we give to the flag and the POWMI, right? We're busy, we're working, that's probably one of the most important times that we have in the meeting. And it should only take 2 to 3 minutes to do that open ceremony. So, we also sometimes, especially when we have a big discussion, people don't want to stop talking, or people are talking and there's other people talking in the back of the room, all right? We're supposed to help keep order of the meeting, all right? And then at the end, we'll retrieve the POWMIA cover. All right? In the officer's guide, it has a whole bunch of things. It tells us how to arrange the meeting hall. We're there to assist the post commander and adjutant if you're in a post meeting, or the director if you're in a writer's suite. Flag etiquette, we're watching that. We do the Pledge of Allegiance. We approach the flag. That's what flag etiquette is all about. We protect that hollow ground if you do have one in front of the podium. You may be part of a color guard or a burial detail. I don't know, a lot of us, we only show up with our vest on, and, I mean, usually, color guards usually handle that, or military, ROTC, whatever in the funerals or burials. So how many of y'all do have, like, funeral detail? Have y'all ever been? You guys, yeah, okay. And then there's some other pageantry, kind of like the 4 chaplains. We have the Veterans Day. Usually there's a celebration ceremony. In our post, we have fallen heroes, where we do the first responders, that kind of stuff. So you may have certain things that you do, but we pretty much do all those standard things except for the POWMIA flag, right? Usually when we're outside in a ceremony, there's usually a flag already, so we just do a pledge of allegiance and say a prayer, and that's how we do it at Post 10, so it depends on the situation. One of the other things is we are the welcome committee. Everybody comes in and signs our book, right? So you should be happy and welcoming everybody. You should also encourage people to come to the meetings. Instead of saying, no, we don't do anything like that, stay positive, right? Because if we're not positive, then the membership is not going to be positive. And then you may want to, you may have to, sometimes, which I've had, is sometimes the whoever's given the, who's running the meeting, they get off thing or they forget things, right? I've had things where they forgot the Pledge of Allegiance, or hey, we forgot to pick up the American, the POWMIA flag. I've had that happen. I had one commander that I was like, hey, we can't. He did the prayer, he did everything else, but he forgot to, and was like, I'm pointing, right? So you have to kind of help them help themselves. In our protocol manual, right, it covers, these are a lot of the things that they cover. Same thing, our duties, the Legion cap, hologram, the preamble, the meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance, POWMIA remembrances, the history of the Pledge of Allegiance, Legion uniforms, cords, how some of the color guards, they have whatever the colors are. The origin of Flag Day, that was, I meant to look it up because what day is Flag Day?
June 14th.
June 14th, right?
June.
14th.
6/14.
June 14th. I always forget that.
My son.
And I do our calendar at the post, and I have to put it down, so. Obviously, the disposal ceremonies, if you have them, there is a ceremony on how you're supposed to do it. The proper displays for our vehicles, and in the military funeral flag protocol. And then we have the American Legion protocol that's also in that bit. It's like what other, everything else, and then you have the American Legion way of doing it. The officer's guide, our bylaws and constitution, sometimes they have something in there that, that says what we're supposed to be doing, how we're doing it, so you have to know that. The department, Florida's Writers SOP, and our standing rules, right? We don't have protocol things in those, but it actually tells you in some cases how what you have to do in the meeting and what you don't have to do, right? Or mainly about membership, right? The good standing stuff. That's where that is. Does anybody have any questions? I don't have Les here today, so I don't have my back on. He was here yesterday. It was great. It was like, I don't know that answer. Hey, Les, do you know that answer? And he didn't answer. Yes.
Is there a certain arm you're supposed to escort people?
Yes. So on the right.
Always keep them on the right?
Yes. All right. And some people, you hold them. It's different, but you escort them to the right. Now, again, sometimes they're so quick, the guests, they get ahead of you, and it's like, so unless you know they're coming, they're going to be going to the podium, all right? Then you tell them, hey, we're going to come meet me where you're standing, and then you kind of, before the meeting, you kind of tell them, hey, meet me here and we'll walk up, all right? A lot of, when you have rooms like this, and you have the podium over there, they come from all ways, so you have to be careful. So that's why you have to kind of instruct them before, if you know they're going to be coming to the podium. Some of them just stand and say hi, and and they talk from there, and that's okay. Right? But the ones that come up to the podium to talk at the podium is the ones that you have to escort. You escort going, and you escort coming back. All right?
What about out of the meeting?
Huh?
What about if you're removing them?
Removing them?
Escorting
Meaning
them outside.
somebody from the meeting?
Yes.
You do it as quietly as you can. And
No.
I've never had to do that, thank God, but, but that's where the officers and hopefully the membership will, the director will stop and say, all right, let's take one break and then get them out or her out. You had that?
He's just making things up.
Yeah, I think so. But,
Okay. But
You
but
can't
that
touch
came
it.
back in though.
you can't touch
If you're escorting on the right, you salute with the right.
So you stop, and then both of you, it depends on who that person is, right? If they'll salute with you, or they'll go with their hand here. And then at that time, if it's an auxiliary person or something, then you take them around to the right, and if it's not, then you go to the other way. Yes?
But we don't do that in general session or convention or conference. Seems like they're always going up on the right, on the left side.
Last one there, did.
Okay, so
Just a question.
for those, the reason for that is because the ramp
The ramp's
is
open.
usually always on the left, and that's why. And there is, in how to do that, there is a certain
Okay.
wording that if it's only one way,
Yeah.
then that's okay. I mean, especially like at our conferences and
Correct,
auxiliaries,
Correct.
they're always, well, everybody's going to the left, right? So, all right, anything, any more? All right, so as you can tell, we want feedback. We now have the QR codes on every room and everything. So please do your survey and tell us what you need, what you don't need, what you like, what you don't like, right? So that's how we get better. The other thing we're getting out of here a little bit early, so when you go down the hallways, don't scream. All right? Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.